Marcus Chen had always dreamed of wearing the royal uniform. Growing up in a small farming village outside the capital, he would watch the palace guards on television during state ceremonies, their crisp uniforms gleaming under the ceremonial lights. Their disciplined movements and proud bearing represented everything he wanted to become. When the recruitment notice appeared in his local newspaper, Marcus didn't hesitate for a single moment. The training was brutal. 6 months of intensive physical conditioning, weapons training, and protocol lessons transformed the skinny farm boy into a capable guardian. Marcus learned to march in perfect formation, memorized hundreds of security procedures, and mastered the art of remaining completely still for hours during ceremonial duties. His instructors praised his dedication and natural ability to blend into the background while maintaining constant alertness. After graduation, Marcus was assigned to the East Wing of the Royal Palace, responsible for protecting the private quarters of the royal family. The assignment was considered prestigious among new recruits. Only the most trusted guards were allowed access to these sensitive areas where the royal family lived their daily lives away from public scrutiny. The palace was magnificent beyond anything Marcus had imagined. Marble corridors stretched endlessly, in every direction, decorated with priceless paintings and ancient artifacts. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns on polished floors, and every surface seemed to gleam with careful maintenance. The royal family's private wing was even more luxurious, with hand-carved furniture, silk tapestries, and rooms filled with personal treasures collected over generations. Marcus quickly adapted to the rhythm of palace life. His shifts followed a strict schedule, rotating between different posts throughout the East Wing. Sometimes he stood guard outside the royal dining room during private family meals. Other times he patrolled the corridors leading to the royal bedrooms, ensuring no unauthorized persons could approach. The work required intense concentration and absolute discretion. The royal family members he protected were surprisingly normal in their private moments. The king enjoyed reading mystery novels and often stayed up late in his study. The queen had a passion for gardening and would spend hours tending to her private greenhouse. Their children attended regular schools and participated in typical teenage activities, though always under careful supervision. What struck Marcus most was how the royal family treated their guards. Unlike the stern, distant figures he had expected, they were genuinely kind and considerate. The king would nod politely when passing guards in the hallways. The queen always said good morning to the guards stationed near her greenhouse. The royal children were respectful and never demanded special treatment from the security staff. As months passed, Marcus earned the trust of his supervisors. His attention to detail and unwavering reliability made him a favorite for sensitive assignments. He was often chosen for duties that required extra discretion, such as accompanying royal family members during private meetings or standing guard during confidential discussions with government officials. The other guards respected Marcus for his professionalism and humble attitude. He never gossiped about what he observed during his duties, never complained about difficult assignments, and always volunteered for extra shifts when needed. His reputation as a dependable and trustworthy guard spread throughout the palace security force. Marcus's personal life was simple but satisfying. He lived in the guards' quarters within the palace complex, a comfortable apartment that provided everything he needed. His salary was generous enough to support his aging parents back in the village, and he took pride in being able to help his family financially. Every month, he would send money home and write long letters describing his work without revealing any confidential details. The palace guards formed a tight-knit community. They trained together, ate meals together, and supported each other through the challenges of their demanding job. Marcus formed close friendships with several fellow guards, particularly those who had also come from rural backgrounds. They understood the pride and responsibility that came with protecting the royal family. Security briefings were held regularly to keep all guards informed about potential threats and changing protocols. Marcus paid careful attention during these meetings, taking detailed notes and asking thoughtful questions. He understood that even small security oversights could have serious consequences for the safety of those under their protection. The palace operated like a small city, with hundreds of staff members working in various departments. Marcus interacted with cooks, cleaners, administrators, and maintenance workers throughout his daily duties. Everyone understood their role in maintaining the smooth operation of the royal household, and there was a strong sense of shared purpose among all employees. During his free time, Marcus continued his education, studying languages and international relations through correspondence courses. He believed that expanding his knowledge would make him more valuable as a guard and potentially open doors for advancement within the Royal Security Service. His dedication to self-improvement impressed his superiors and further solidified his reputation as an exemplary guard. The seasonal rhythms of palace life became familiar to Marcus. Spring brought garden parties and outdoor ceremonies. Summer meant increased security during the royal family's vacation travels. Autumn involved preparations for the annual state opening of Parliament. Winter featured elaborate holiday celebrations that required extensive security planning. Marcus particularly enjoyed the ceremonial aspects of his duties, standing at attention during state dinners, escorting foreign dignitaries through palace corridors, and participating in formal military reviews gave him a deep sense of pride in serving his country. These moments reminded him why he had chosen this career path and reinforced his commitment to excellence in his duties. As his second year of service began, Marcus had established himself as one of the most reliable guards in the East Wing. His supervisors trusted him with increasingly important assignments, and his fellow guards looked up to him as a model of professionalism. The royal family had come to recognize him as a familiar, reassuring presence in their daily lives. Nothing in his training or experience had prepared Marcus for what was about to unfold. The quiet routine of palace life was about to be shattered by events that would test his loyalty, challenge his beliefs, and ultimately change the course of his entire life. The young guard who had dreamed of serving his country with honor was about to discover that sometimes the greatest threats come from within the very institutions we trust most. The first sign that something unusual was happening came during a routine morning briefing. Captain Rodriguez, the head of palace security, announced that several guards would be selected for special overseas assignments. These missions would involve protecting royal family members during extended diplomatic visits to allied nations. The assignments were described as career advancement opportunities that would provide valuable international experience. Marcus felt a surge of excitement when his name was called among the selected guards. The overseas assignment represented recognition of his excellent service record and professional competence. Captain Rodriguez explained that the chosen guards would receive additional training in international security protocols and cultural sensitivity before their deployments. The special training program was conducted in a secure facility outside the capital city. Marcus and 5 other guards were transported there in unmarked vehicles, their destination kept confidential for security reasons. The facility was modern and well-equipped, with classrooms, training grounds, and comfortable living quarters for the participating guards. Their instructor was Colonel Mitchell, a veteran of military intelligence with decades of experience in international operations. He was a stern man who demanded perfection in everything from physical fitness to diplomatic protocol. Colonel Mitchell explained that their upcoming assignments would require them to operate in unfamiliar environments while maintaining the highest standards of royal protection. The training covered various aspects of international security work. Marcus learned about different legal systems, cultural customs, and potential security threats in various countries. He studied the layouts of foreign palaces, embassy buildings, and secure facilities where the royal family might stay during their travels. The instruction was intensive and comprehensive, covering scenarios that regular palace guards never encountered. Physical training was more demanding than anything Marcus had experienced before. The guards practiced advanced defensive techniques, emergency evacuation procedures, and close-quarters combat skills. They learned to use specialized communication equipment and were trained in counter-surveillance methods to detect potential threats from hostile intelligence services. During the cultural sensitivity portion of their training, Marcus learned about diplomatic protocol in different countries. He studied the proper ways to interact with foreign officials, security personnel, and palace staff. The instruction emphasized the importance of representing their nation with dignity while adapting to local customs and expectations. Colonel Mitchell frequently stressed the confidential nature of their future assignments. He explained that successful international security operations required absolute discretion and complete trust between team members. Any breach of operational security could endanger not only the royal family, but also the diplomatic relationships between nations. As the training progressed, Marcus began to notice subtle inconsistencies in some of the instruction. Certain procedures seemed unnecessarily complicated, and some of the equipment they were learning to use appeared more sophisticated than what would typically be needed for standard diplomatic protection. When he quietly mentioned these observations to fellow trainees, they admitted having similar concerns. The language training component of the program was particularly intensive. Marcus was required to achieve conversational fluency in 2 foreign languages within a remarkably short time frame. The instruction methods were unconventional, using advanced learning techniques that seemed almost experimental in nature. While effective, the rapid pace of language acquisition felt artificial and somewhat uncomfortable. Weapons training introduced Marcus to firearms and defensive equipment that were far more advanced than standard palace guard equipment. The instructors explained that international assignments required superior firepower to deal with potential threats from terrorist organizations or hostile government agents. While this explanation seemed logical, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something about the training was not entirely straightforward. The psychological evaluation sessions were perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the program. Guards were required to undergo extensive interviews with military psychologists who asked probing questions about their personal lives, family relationships, and political beliefs. The psychologists seemed particularly interested in the guards' loyalty to the royal family and their willingness to follow orders without question. During one particularly intense psychological session, Marcus was shown photographs of various international locations and asked to provide detailed reactions to each image. Some of the locations appeared to be government buildings, military installations, and secure facilities, rather than the hotels and diplomatic residences where royal family members would typically stay during official visits. The guards were also required to participate in loyalty exercises designed to test their commitment to following orders under stressful conditions. These exercises involved complex scenarios where guards had to make quick decisions about protecting royal family members in dangerous situations. The scenarios often involved choosing between competing loyalties or following orders that seemed morally questionable. Communications training taught Marcus to use encrypted radio systems, satellite phones, and secure internet connections. The equipment was military-grade and far more sophisticated than anything used for routine diplomatic protection. Instructors emphasized the importance of maintaining constant contact with command centers and following precise communication protocols at all times. Navigation and surveillance training covered techniques for operating in unfamiliar urban and rural environments. Marcus learned to use advanced GPS systems, night vision equipment, and long-range observation devices. The training included lessons in evading detection while conducting surveillance operations, skills that seemed unnecessary for protecting royal family members during official diplomatic visits. As the weeks of training continued, Marcus found himself questioning the true nature of their upcoming assignments. The combination of advanced military training, psychological conditioning, and sophisticated equipment suggested something far more complex than standard diplomatic protection duties. However, his attempts to seek clarification from Colonel Mitchell were always met with vague responses about operational security requirements. The final phase of training involved realistic simulations of international protection scenarios. Guards were placed in mock diplomatic settings and required to respond to various threat situations. These exercises were filmed extensively, with instructors reviewing every aspect of the guard's performance in minute detail. Marcus performed excellently in all scenarios, earning praise from Colonel Mitchell for his adaptability and decision-making skills. Upon completion of the training program, Marcus and his fellow guards were sworn to secrecy about everything they had learned and experienced. They signed extensive confidentiality agreements and were briefed about the severe consequences of revealing any information about their training or future assignments to unauthorized persons, including other palace guards and family members. The graduation ceremony was attended by high-ranking military officials and government representatives whom Marcus did not recognize. Their presence suggested that the overseas assignments were considered matters of national importance rather than routine diplomatic protection duties. The officials spoke about the guards' service to their country and the critical nature of their upcoming missions. Marcus returned to regular palace duties while awaiting notification of his overseas assignment, the normal routine of protecting. The royal family felt strange after weeks of intensive international training. He found himself analyzing his familiar surroundings with new eyes, noticing security vulnerabilities and potential threat scenarios that had never occurred to him before the special training program. 3 weeks after returning from the training facility, Marcus received his assignment orders during a private meeting with Captain Rodriguez. The envelope was marked with multiple security classifications, and Marcus had to sign several documents before being allowed to read its contents. His destination was the Republic of Valdoria, a small but strategically important nation in Eastern Europe, known for its mineral resources and recent political instability. According to the official briefing documents, Marcus would be part of a 4-guard security detail protecting Princess Elena during a 2-month cultural exchange program with Valdoria. The princess was supposedly participating in an international arts initiative designed to strengthen diplomatic relationships between the two countries. Marcus would serve as her personal bodyguard during various cultural events and public appearances. However, the detailed mission parameters seemed inconsistent with a simple cultural exchange program. Marcus was instructed to establish contact with specific individuals in Valdoria's government and business community. He received photographs and biographical information about local officials, military officers, and industrial leaders who were described as persons of interest for diplomatic relationship building. The equipment issued for Marcus's assignment was far more sophisticated than what would be needed for protecting a princess at cultural events. He received advanced surveillance devices, encrypted communication equipment, and specialized cameras capable of capturing high-resolution images from considerable distances. When he questioned the necessity of such equipment, Captain Rodriguez explained that modern diplomatic protection required comprehensive security monitoring. Marcus was also given a cover identity as a cultural attaché in addition to his role as a royal guard. This secondary identity would allow him to attend business meetings, government receptions, and social events where the princess would not be present. The cover story was supported by detailed background documentation and false credentials that appeared completely authentic. The flight to Valdoria was aboard a military transport aircraft rather than the commercial airline typically used for royal family travel. Marcus and the other 3 guards were the only passengers, accompanied by 2 men in civilian clothes who were introduced as diplomatic liaisons, but never provided their names or specific roles in the mission. Upon arrival in Valdoria's capital city, Marcus was surprised to discover that Princess Elena was not waiting for them. Instead, they were met by Colonel Petrov, a stern-faced Valdorian military officer who spoke excellent English and seemed to know detailed information about each guard's background and training. Colonel Petrov explained that the princess had been delayed by scheduling conflicts and would join them within a few days. The guards were housed in a secure compound on the outskirts of the capital rather than in the luxury hotel where visiting dignitaries typically stayed. The compound was surrounded by high walls topped with razor wire and guarded by Valdorian soldiers. While the accommodations were comfortable, The location felt more like a military installation than diplomatic housing. During their first briefing, at the compound, Colonel Petrov revealed the true nature of their assignment. There was no Princess Elena participating in a cultural exchange program. Instead, Marcus and the other guards had been recruited for a covert intelligence operation designed to gather information about Valdoria's mineral mining operations and political leadership. The revelation shocked Marcus, but Colonel Petrov calmly explained that their mission was essential for their home country's national security interests. Valdoria possessed significant reserves of rare earth minerals, crucial for modern technology and military applications. Recent political changes in Valdoria threatened to disrupt the supply of these minerals to Marcus's home country and its allies. Marcus's specific assignment was to infiltrate Valdoria's Ministry of Natural Resources by posing as a cultural attaché, interested in promoting mining industry cooperation between the two countries. He would use his cover identity to gain access to government offices, establish relationships with key officials, and gather intelligence about mining contracts, production capabilities, and future political developments. The other guards received similar assignments targeting different aspects of Valdorian society. One would focus on military installations and defense capabilities. Another would investigate political opposition groups and potential sources of instability. The third would monitor foreign business interests and competing intelligence operations in the country. Colonel Petrov provided Marcus with detailed intelligence files about his targets within the Ministry of Natural Resources. The files contained personal information about government officials, including their family relationships, financial situations, political loyalties, and potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited to gain their cooperation or extract information. The ethical implications of the assignment troubled Marcus deeply. He had joined the Royal Guard Service to protect his country's leaders, not to conduct espionage operations against foreign governments. The deception involved in his recruitment and training felt like a betrayal of the trust he had placed in his superiors. However, Colonel Petrov made it clear that refusal to participate in the mission was not an option. He explained that the guards had signed legally binding contracts during their training that committed them to completing whatever assignments they received. Attempting to withdraw from the mission would result in court-martial proceedings and lengthy imprisonment for violating national security laws. To ensure the guards' cooperation, Colonel Petrov also revealed that their families back home were being monitored by security services. Any attempt to reveal information about the mission or refuse to follow orders would result in serious consequences for their loved ones. Marcus thought about his aging parents in their village and realized he had no choice but to comply with the mission requirements. The first phase of Marcus's assignment involved establishing his cover identity within Valdorian society. He attended diplomatic receptions, business conferences, and cultural events while gradually building relationships with officials from the Ministry of Natural Resources. His training in languages and cultural sensitivity proved valuable in navigating the complex social dynamics of Valdorian elite circles. Marcus discovered that he had a natural talent for the deceptive aspects of intelligence work. His genuine interest in learning about Valdorian culture and history made his cover identity convincing to the people he met. Officials at the Ministry of Natural Resources welcomed his apparent enthusiasm for promoting mining industry cooperation and began sharing information about their operations and future plans. As weeks passed, Marcus gathered significant intelligence about Valdoria's mineral resources, production capabilities, and political relationships with other countries. He learned about secret negotiations with Chinese mining companies, concerns about environmental regulations affecting production, and internal disagreements within the government about foreign investment policies. The intelligence gathering process required Marcus to betray the trust of Valdorian officials who had welcomed him as a friend and potential business partner. He felt increasingly uncomfortable about deceiving people who had shown him genuine kindness and hospitality. The moral conflict between his duty to follow orders and his personal sense of right and wrong created constant internal tension. Marcus also began to question the legitimacy of his home country's intelligence interests in Valdoria. The more he learned about Valdorian society and politics, the more he doubted whether the covert operation was truly necessary for national security. The Valdorian people seemed to be struggling with legitimate economic and political challenges rather than posing any real threat to other countries. Communication with his handlers back home occurred through encrypted channels on a weekly basis. Marcus submitted detailed reports about his intelligence-gathering activities and received new instructions for targets and information requirements. The handlers seemed pleased with his progress, but provided no information about how the intelligence was being used or whether the mission had any defined endpoint. The psychological strain of living a double life began to affect Marcus's mental health and personal relationships. He found it increasingly difficult to maintain genuine friendships with Valdorian colleagues while secretly gathering intelligence about their work and personal lives. The constant deception required him to suppress his natural honesty and moral instincts. After 2 months in Valdoria, Marcus had successfully infiltrated the highest levels of the Ministry of Natural Resources. His cover as a cultural attaché had provided access to classified documents, private meetings, and confidential conversations about the country's mineral wealth and strategic partnerships. However, the deeper he penetrated into Valdorian government circles, the more conflicted he became about his mission. During a routine intelligence-gathering operation at a ministry social gathering, Marcus overheard a conversation that changed everything. 2 senior officials were discussing humanitarian aid programs funded by Valdoria's mineral exports, including medical supplies for refugee camps and educational scholarships for children from impoverished regions. The programs were being threatened by economic pressures created by foreign intelligence operations, exactly like the one Marcus was conducting. The realization that his actions were directly contributing to human suffering in vulnerable communities around the world created a crisis of conscience that Marcus could no longer ignore. He began to question not only the morality of his specific assignment, but also the broader intelligence policies of his home country's government. Marcus decided to document his concerns in a personal video recording, initially intended as a private reflection on his moral dilemma. Using his secure communication equipment, he filmed himself describing the true nature of his assignment, the deceptive recruitment process, and the negative impact of the intelligence operation on innocent Valdorian citizens and international humanitarian programs. The video recording was meant to serve as a personal confession and moral inventory rather than a document intended for public release. Marcus hoped that articulating his concerns would help him process the psychological stress of his situation and possibly find a way to continue his mission with a clearer conscience. However, during the filming process, Marcus received an encrypted communication from his handlers demanding that he accelerate his intelligence-gathering activities. A new priority target had been identified: Dr. Sofia Marchetti, an Italian geologist working with Valdoria's Ministry of Natural Resources to develop environmentally sustainable mining practices. Marcus was ordered to establish a romantic relationship with Dr. Marchetti to gain access to her research and professional contacts. The order to exploit an innocent woman's emotions for intelligence purposes represented a moral line that Marcus was unwilling to cross. Dr. Marchetti had shown him nothing but professional respect and personal kindness during their previous interactions at ministry events. The thought of manipulating her feelings and potentially destroying her career for the sake of gathering intelligence filled Marcus with disgust and anger. In his emotional state, Marcus expanded his video recording to include details about the new assignment and his refusal to participate in what he considered an unconscionable abuse of an innocent person. He described Dr. Marchetti's important work in sustainable mining and her genuine efforts to help Valdoria develop its resources while protecting the environment and local communities. The video recording evolved into a comprehensive confession, about the entire intelligence operation, including the deceptive recruitment of palace guards, the sophisticated training program, and the covert activities being conducted in Valdoria under diplomatic cover. Marcus spoke candidly about his disillusionment with his government's methods and his determination to expose what he believed was an immoral and possibly illegal intelligence program. After completing the recording, Marcus faced a difficult decision about what to do with the video. He knew that releasing it would end his career, possibly result in criminal prosecution, and certainly endanger his family back home. However, he also believed that the information contained in the video was too important to keep secret, particularly given the humanitarian implications of the intelligence operation. Marcus decided to encrypt the video file and store it in a secure digital location where it could be accessed by journalists or human rights organizations if something happened to him. He also created multiple copies of the file and distributed them through various secure channels to ensure the information would survive even if he was captured or silenced by intelligence services. The psychological relief of making the recording was short-lived, as Marcus realized that his actions had probably been detected by the sophisticated surveillance systems monitoring all intelligence operatives in the field. His handlers would likely discover his non-compliance with orders and his creation of the unauthorized video within a matter of days or weeks. To protect himself and potentially provide evidence of the intelligence operation's illegal activities, Marcus began covertly documenting his daily activities and interactions with Valdorian officials. He used hidden cameras and recording devices to capture evidence of the deceptive practices being employed by all members of the intelligence team operating in Valdoria. Marcus also started building relationships with legitimate journalists and human rights investigators who were working in Valdoria on unrelated stories. He carefully provided them with background information about unusual foreign activities in the country without revealing his own role in the intelligence operation. His goal was to create a network of independent observers who might investigate and report on the covert activities if the video evidence ever became public. The other guards in Marcus's team began to notice his changed behavior and emotional state. His handler, Colonel Petrov, questioned Marcus about his apparent reluctance to pursue the assignment involving Dr. Marchetti and his decreased productivity in gathering intelligence about ministry activities. Marcus managed to deflect these concerns by claiming he was experiencing health problems related to the stress of extended undercover work. As pressure from his handlers increased, Marcus realized that his time in Valdoria was running out. The intelligence operation was scheduled to conclude within several weeks, and all operatives would be returned to their home countries for debriefing and reassignment. Once back under direct control of his government's intelligence services, Marcus would have no opportunity to expose the program or protect the innocent people who had been targeted. Marcus made the fateful decision to accelerate his documentation efforts and prepare for the eventual release of his confession video. He began transferring additional classified information to secure digital storage locations and established communication protocols with journalists and human rights organizations that could be activated remotely if he was unable to do so personally. The final weeks of Marcus's assignment in Valdoria were marked by increasing paranoia and careful maneuvering to avoid detection while completing his documentation of the intelligence operation. He continued to participate in required activities while secretly gathering evidence that would support his eventual revelations about the program's illegal and immoral aspects. Dr. Marchetti approached Marcus during a ministry reception and expressed concern about his apparent stress and withdrawn behavior. Her genuine caring and professional integrity reinforced Marcus's determination to protect her and others from exploitation by intelligence services. He realized that her safety and the safety of other innocent people depended on his ability to successfully expose the intelligence program. The conversation with Dr. Marchetti also made Marcus acutely aware of the personal relationships and professional connections he had developed during his time in Valdoria. Many Valdorian officials and international colleagues had come to trust and respect him, unaware of his true identity and purpose. The thought of betraying their trust and friendship caused Marcus significant emotional pain and strengthened his resolve to make amends through public disclosure of the intelligence operation. As his departure date approached, Marcus completed his final video recordings and digital documentation of the intelligence operation. He had compiled extensive evidence of illegal activities, including unauthorized surveillance of foreign nationals, theft of classified documents, and manipulation of diplomatic relationships for intelligence purposes. The evidence package also included detailed information about the recruitment and training methods used to deceive palace guards into participating in covert operations. The extraction from Valdoria happened faster than Marcus had anticipated. Colonel Petrov informed the intelligence team with only 12 hours' notice that their mission was being terminated due to changing political circumstances in the region. All operatives were to destroy their equipment, eliminate traces of their activities, and prepare for immediate departure through military transport channels. Marcus realized this sudden extraction was likely connected to suspicions about his behavior and possible security breaches within the operation. Intelligence services rarely terminated successful missions without compelling reasons, and Marcus's recent reluctance to follow orders had probably triggered security protocols designed to protect the broader intelligence program from exposure. During the frantic final day in Valdoria, Marcus managed to complete his evidence collection and activate the dead-drop communication systems he had established with journalists and human rights investigators. He uploaded his final video confession and supporting documentation to multiple secure servers located in different countries, ensuring that the information would survive even if he was captured or eliminated. The flight back home was aboard the same military transport aircraft that had brought the team to Valdoria, but the atmosphere was markedly different. Colonel Petrov and the unnamed civilian liaisons maintained strict surveillance over all team members, confiscating personal belongings and conducting thorough searches for unauthorized materials or communication devices. Marcus had anticipated this security screening and had already transferred all incriminating evidence to secure digital storage before the extraction. However, he was concerned about the possibility of enhanced interrogation techniques being used during the debriefing process, which could potentially compromise his digital security measures and endanger the journalists who were now in possession of classified information. Upon arrival at the military airbase, Marcus and the other guards were immediately separated and transported to different secure facilities for individual debriefing sessions. Marcus was taken to an isolated complex in the mountains, where intelligence operatives underwent psychological evaluation and memory modification procedures designed to ensure operational security after completing classified assignments. The debriefing facility was staffed by military psychologists, intelligence officers, and medical personnel who specialized in managing the psychological aftereffects of covert operations. Marcus was informed that he would undergo several weeks of intensive evaluation and treatment to help him readjust to normal life and forget the classified aspects of his recent assignment. Dr. Harrison, the facility's chief psychologist, explained that memory modification procedures were standard practice for intelligence operatives returning from sensitive missions. The treatments were designed to suppress traumatic memories, eliminate operational details that could compromise national security, and restore the operative's original personality and emotional state. Marcus realized that the memory modification procedures were actually sophisticated brainwashing techniques designed to prevent intelligence operatives from revealing classified information about covert programs. The treatments would effectively erase his knowledge of the illegal activities he had witnessed and participated in, making it impossible for him to expose the intelligence operation even if he wanted to. The first week of treatment involved intensive psychological interviews designed to map Marcus's memories of the Valdorian assignment. Dr. Harrison used advanced hypnosis techniques, pharmaceutical interventions, and sensory manipulation to access and catalog every detail of Marcus's recent experiences. The process was physically and emotionally exhausting, leaving Marcus disoriented and vulnerable to the memory modification procedures that would follow. During one psychological session, Marcus was shown photographs of his family members and asked to describe his emotional connections to them. Dr. Harrison explained that maintaining these important personal relationships required eliminating the traumatic memories from his intelligence, assignment that were causing psychological distress and potentially dangerous behavioral changes. Marcus began to understand that the memory modification procedures were as much about protecting the intelligence services as they were about helping operatives readjust to civilian life. By erasing memories of illegal activities and moral conflicts, the treatments ensured that former operatives could never provide evidence or testimony about classified programs to journalists, prosecutors, or congressional investigators. The realization that his memories and moral convictions were about to be artificially altered motivated Marcus to resist the psychological treatments as much as possible. He began employing mental techniques he had learned during his intelligence training to compartmentalize information and protect his core memories from the modification procedures. Marcus also discovered that he was not the only intelligence operative who had developed moral objections to covert assignments. During supervised recreational activities, he encountered other former operatives who exhibited signs of psychological distress and resistance to the memory modification treatments. However, direct communication about classified matters was strictly prohibited and closely monitored by facility staff. The pharmaceutical aspects of the treatment program involved experimental drugs that affected memory formation and emotional processing. Marcus was given daily injections of substances that were described as anxiety medications, but which actually altered his brain chemistry in ways that made him more susceptible to hypnotic suggestion and memory manipulation. As the memory modification procedures intensified, Marcus found it increasingly difficult to maintain clear recollections of his time in Valdoria and the evidence he had compiled about the intelligence operation. The treatments were gradually erasing his ability to remember specific details about Dr. Marchetti, Colonel Petrov, and the other people he had encountered during his assignment. However, Marcus had prepared for this possibility by creating mental associations between his classified memories and deeply personal experiences that would be difficult for the modification procedures to eliminate without causing severe psychological damage. He linked his memories of the intelligence operation to childhood experiences, family relationships, and core personal values that were fundamental to his identity. The resistance techniques proved partially effective in preserving Marcus's knowledge of the illegal activities he had witnessed, but the effort required to maintain these memories was exhausting and potentially dangerous. The facility's medical staff began to notice unusual brain activity patterns during Marcus's treatment sessions, suggesting that his psychological resistance was interfering with the memory modification procedures. Dr. Harrison decided to increase the intensity of Marcus's treatment program using more powerful pharmaceutical interventions and extended hypnosis sessions designed to overcome his psychological resistance. The enhanced treatments were physically painful and caused severe disorientation, but Marcus continued to fight to preserve his memories of the intelligence operation and his moral objections to its illegal activities. During his third week at the facility, Marcus experienced a breakthrough that changed everything. While recovering from a particularly intense treatment session, he overheard a conversation between Dr. Harrison and a military intelligence officer about the failure of his memory modification procedures and the security risks posed by his retained knowledge of classified operations. The intelligence officer suggested that Marcus might need to be eliminated rather than released if the memory modification procedures continued to fail. Dr. Harrison expressed concern about the ethical implications of such action, but acknowledged that protecting national security might require extreme measures to prevent the exposure of classified intelligence programs. Marcus realized that his life was now in immediate danger and that his only hope for survival was the successful activation of the dead-drop communication systems he had established before leaving Valdoria. The journalists and human rights investigators who had received his evidence package were his only potential protection against elimination by intelligence services seeking to prevent exposure of their illegal activities. The race against time had begun. Marcus needed to find a way to escape from the secure facility and reach safety before his handlers decided that elimination was the only solution to the security problems he represented. The success or failure of his evidence distribution systems would determine not only his own survival, but also whether the truth about the intelligence operation would ever be revealed to the public. The opportunity for escape came during Marcus's fourth week at the facility, when a severe thunderstorm caused a temporary power outage that disabled the electronic security systems. Marcus had been carefully observing the facility's security, protocols, and guard rotations, waiting for exactly this type of opportunity to attempt his escape. During the confusion caused by the power outage, Marcus managed to slip away from the medical wing and make his way to the facility's motor pool. He had noticed during supervised outdoor activities that delivery vehicles were often left running while drivers made brief stops at various buildings throughout the complex. Marcus found an unmarked van with its engine running and the driver absent, presumably helping to restore power or secure the facility during the emergency. He quickly entered the vehicle and drove toward the main gate, hoping to reach the perimeter before the security systems were restored and his absence was discovered. The gate guards were focused on maintaining manual security procedures during the power outage and did not immediately recognize that Marcus was not an authorized driver. He presented fake identification documents he had created during his intelligence training and claimed to be making an emergency supply run to town. The guards, distracted by multiple emergency protocols, waved him through without conducting a thorough verification of his credentials. Once outside the facility, Marcus abandoned the stolen vehicle several miles away and began making his way toward the nearest town on foot. He had memorized the location of a safe house operated by a human rights organization that had previously offered assistance to intelligence whistleblowers seeking protection from government retaliation. The journey to the safe house took Marcus 3 days of careful travel through rural areas, avoiding main roads and populated areas where his photograph might be recognized by law enforcement officers searching for him. He slept in abandoned buildings and foraged for food while constantly monitoring radio broadcasts for news about his escape. During his escape journey, Marcus learned that his video confession and supporting evidence had already begun circulating among international journalists and human rights organizations. The first news reports about the illegal intelligence operation in Valdoria had been published by a respected European newspaper, creating immediate controversy and prompting calls for official investigations. The leaked video showed Marcus in his palace guard uniform describing the deceptive recruitment process, the sophisticated training program designed to create unwitting intelligence operatives, and the specific illegal activities he had been ordered to conduct in Valdoria. His detailed account of the pressure tactics used to ensure compliance and the memory modification procedures designed to prevent disclosure provided compelling evidence of systematic abuse of military personnel. International reaction to the leaked information was swift and severe. The Valdorian government filed formal diplomatic protests and demanded explanations for the unauthorized intelligence activities conducted on their territory. Several allied nations expressed concern about the implications of using palace guards as intelligence operatives without their informed consent. Human rights organizations focused on Marcus's revelations about Dr. Sofia Marchetti and other innocent individuals who had been targeted for exploitation by the intelligence operation. The sustainable mining research that Dr. Marchetti was conducting was shown to be genuinely beneficial for environmental protection and local community development, contradicting the intelligence assessment that had portrayed her work as a potential threat. The memory modification procedures described in Marcus's confession sparked particular outrage among medical ethics experts and military veterans advocacy groups. The use of experimental pharmaceutical interventions and psychological manipulation techniques on military personnel without their informed consent was condemned as a violation of fundamental human rights and medical ethics principles. Marcus's Former colleagues at the palace were shocked to learn about his secret recruitment and the true nature of his overseas assignment. Many guards expressed anger at being deceived about the selection process and concern that they might also be vulnerable to covert recruitment for intelligence operations. The revelation severely damaged morale and trust within the royal security service. When Marcus finally reached the safe house, he was met by representatives of the International Committee for Intelligence Accountability, a human rights organization that specialized in protecting whistleblowers who exposed illegal government activities. They confirmed that his evidence package had been successfully distributed to major news organizations and government oversight committees in multiple countries. The organization provided Marcus with legal representation, medical care, and secure housing while international pressure mounted for official investigations into the intelligence operation he had exposed. His physical and psychological condition had deteriorated significantly during his time at the memory modification facility and his subsequent escape, requiring extensive rehabilitation. Parliamentary committees in several countries launched formal investigations into the use of palace guards as unwitting intelligence operatives. Marcus's testimony via secure video link provided crucial evidence about the recruitment methods, training procedures, and operational activities that constituted violations of both domestic and international law. The investigation revealed that the intelligence program had been operating for several years and had involved dozens of palace guards who had been recruited under false pretenses and subjected to memory modification procedures to prevent disclosure. Many former participants were located and provided with medical treatment to reverse the effects of the psychological manipulation they had experienced. Dr. Sofia Marchetti testified before the investigating committees about the harassment and surveillance she had experienced from foreign operatives posing as diplomatic personnel. Her research into sustainable mining practices had been stolen, and her personal safety had been threatened, despite her work being entirely legitimate and beneficial for international development efforts. The Valdorian government's cooperation with the international investigation revealed extensive evidence of illegal intelligence activities that had violated their sovereignty and endangered their citizens. The mineral resource information that had been stolen was shown to have been used for commercial purposes rather than legitimate national security interests. Public opinion polls showed overwhelming support for Marcus's decision to expose the illegal intelligence program despite the personal risks he had faced. Veterans organizations and human rights groups praised his courage in resisting memory modification procedures and successfully documenting evidence of systematic abuse of military personnel. The final resolution of the scandal led to significant reforms in intelligence oversight and the prosecution of several officials who had authorized the illegal program. Marcus was granted asylum in a neutral country, where he continued to work with human rights organizations to prevent similar abuses of military personnel in the future. The leaked mission video that had sparked the initial controversy became a powerful symbol of the importance of individual conscience in confronting institutional corruption. Marcus's transformation from a loyal palace guard to a principled whistleblower demonstrated that even the most trusted institutions could be held accountable when brave individuals chose to speak truth to power. Years later, Marcus reflected on his journey from a young man dreaming of serving his country with honor to someone who had discovered that true patriotism sometimes required opposing the very institutions he had been trained to serve. His story became an inspiration for other military personnel and government employees who faced similar moral dilemmas in their professional lives. The sustainable mining research that Dr. Marchetti had been conducting was eventually implemented in several developing countries, providing environmental protection and economic benefits for local communities. Her work stood as a testament to the positive contributions that had been threatened by the intelligence operation's illegal activities. Marcus never returned to his homeland, but he maintained contact with his family through secure channels and continued to support them financially through his work with international human rights organizations. His sacrifice had not only exposed corruption within his own government, but had also protected innocent people around the world from exploitation by intelligence services operating without proper oversight or accountability.